Chair recognizes the senator from Plymouth and Norfolk, Mr. O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam President, and through you to the members. This amendment and further before us deals with a very emotional and personal issue, and one that I, especially as a male, do not speak on lightly. I've put a significant amount of time into researching, listening, learning, talking with doctors, talking with people who are adamantly against the bill and pro-life and adamantly for the bill and pro-choice, and people right in the middle. In doing this research, I tried my hardest to take the emotion out of this issue and look at it simply as public policy. Look at it through a lens of public policy. And that public policy lens starts with the belief and understanding that it's a woman's body and it's her choice, and that's been codified by a 7-2 decision 47 years ago in our Supreme Court. I've been proud to stand in this chamber when the Affordable Care Act was under attack by President Trump and stand up and provide necessary protections for women to secure contraception. I'm very proud to support the archaic language removal that we had in our Massachusetts general laws through the Nasty Woman Act. And so looking at this through a strictly public policy lens, the Roe Act, as originally written and as modified in this underlying amendment, deals with policy regarding the expansion of third trimester abortions and abortions that take place with individuals under the age of 18. This is by no means a litmus test on Roe versus Wade. This was a major topic in the campaign that I recently just had, this specific issue. I had many people, both pro-life and pro-choice, who were incredibly confused by the Roe Act, thinking that this was a repeal of Roe v. Wade, or it was a stance that we were taking on Roe v. Wade, and not looking at it through the public policy lens of the two issues it regards with, which are abortions under the age of 18 and an expansion of third trimester abortions. One constituent yesterday, in a totally unrelated post that we had on social media, sent a message that started by saying, "Since you are supporting overturning Roe today." That is how that message started to me. This is not what we're talking about today. So let's get to the public policy components that we're talking about and have a real discussion on those two specific issues. In a day and age with information and misinformation at everyone's fingertips, and we see it to the point in time that our social media companies are banning people in the highest offices of our country for presenting misinformation, we should be, and it's our responsibility, naming bills and putting forward bills with a clear understanding to our constituents of what is contained in the bill, especially when it comes to issues of this much importance, this much emotion, and this much general discussion amongst our constituents. With that said, I do appreciate that the underlying amendment has made some significant policy changes from the original Roe Act language. Most significant to me is that both the requirement that third trimester abortions take place in a hospital, and I looked this up with DPH, there was under 30 third trimester abortions the last time that they had a statistic that was presented to this, so it's not wide-ranging, but I'm glad that those will all be taking place in a hospital that have the support systems in place medically to provide treatment to a woman should there be a complication in what is considered to be a major surgery. And the other is that language is more defined, both in the access to a third trimester abortion as well as a physician's responsibility to a failed abortion. And I looked this up as well, and the CDC claims there was about 163 failed abortions between a 10-year period of time. I don't know specifically what the 10-year period of time was, but it was recent. So it does happen. Both of these policy points I spoke about during the Judiciary Committee hearing we had on the Roe Act last year. During that same judiciary hearing on the Roe Act, we heard from a woman who had discovered late in her pregnancy that her unborn child had developed a severe abnormality where there was no chance of viability outside of the womb. My heart dropped for this woman. My mother was a neonatal intensive care nurse for over 45 years at St. Margaret's in Dorchester and then St. Elizabeth's in Brighton. This is something that is incredibly it hits incredibly home to me knowing how much time my mother has spent caring for both babies as well as for women who are facing some incredible, incredible challenges. And so I can't even imagine, I literally can't even imagine what was going through that woman's mind when she found out that her child had no viability outside of the womb and that this state didn't grant her access to the ability to do what she wanted to do. This further amendment corrects that. This further amendment allows for that woman to seek that medical care in our state, as she should have the absolute right to do. The major difference between the bill that we've put forward, the further amendment, and the underlying amendment deals with access to abortion for individuals under the age of 18. Right now, in a Supreme Court ruling, no less, women under the age of 18 have two paths to seek an abortion in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The first path is through judicial bypass. The first path is through parental consent, where an individual, let's use a 16-year-old girl, faces the choice that she is going to have an abortion. And in order to have that abortion, she goes to her parents, hopefully has the support system in place, and is able to get that abortion. If not, if that young 16-year-old doesn't have that support system in place, a judicial bypass has been put in place so that individual can go to a court, file paperwork, and get a judicial bypass to have an abortion. I know that there are young ladies in this Commonwealth that do not have those parental supports in place. And my heart absolutely drops for them. I know and understand the intent of the policy that's put forth today to remove that requirement of parental consent or judicial bypass. I understand it. I just don't agree with it. And the reason that I don't agree with it is because I truly believe that although this option makes sense for some 16-year-olds to take away the parental consent and to take away judicial bypass, I do believe that through human nature, it is also going to steer some 16-year-olds, which is their choice, away from getting their parents involved. And I think that when you look at this from that standpoint, there's no data, there's no metrics, there's been no study done on what that impact does if we add that third path. So it's no longer parental consent and judicial bypass, it's also go it alone. And I think that that is something that is significant, that should have a significant conversation about. This decision has the potential for long-term physical and emotional consequences. We as a body should be encouraging our youth that have strong parental support systems to involve their parents, to have them stand by their side, to have them walk with them on this incredibly difficult, challenging, personal journey, to comfort them and to support them. And the individuals who don't have those parental support systems, I believe that we need to expand the ability and the availability of judicial bypass. And that we need to look at this issue as an issue for the all of Massachusetts through an equity lens and put in place a discussion with experts, with doctors, with people who are in support of this, with parents. There are a lot of people who are pro-choice who have reached out to my office and said that they are 100% behind adding fatal fetal abnormality to Massachusetts general law to make sure that that woman has that right. But that they also care about parental consent and that they're torn on this issue. And that's why I presented this amendment this further today, to do what we need to do for that woman who has an unborn child that has no viability outside the womb. Give them the opportunity that they absolutely deserve to seek whatever medical treatment that is available to them and expand it. And that for those children under the age of 18 years old, that we look at them, and all of them, that what the policy that we're doing today, what that decision is at 16 years old, right now, it's turning to a parent or turning to the courts and getting it done. And we are saying we are giving you a third path, and that third path is to go it alone. And how many people, just through human nature, at 16 years old, would go it alone when they could have gone to their parents and had that support system in place? I don't know the number of how many that is. That's why I'm asking for a commission. Not that they could ever find out the exact number, but talk to 16-year-olds, talk to these people. We had a great group of individuals who had to go through judicial bypass from the city of Boston who came in a panel in the Roe Act discussion of the judiciary. I heard that. I heard that there are some difficulties inside of judicial bypass. So that's why we also open it up not to just to Superior Court, but also to district courts. And we want to know further what kind of challenges are being faced in judicial bypass right now. I have not seen a comprehensive study with statistics, data, metrics, etc., that shows exactly where the problem is. I think that we're doing something prematurely when we can address the major issue before us, which is allowing women who have fatal fetal abnormalities the right to an abortion whenever that should take place, whenever they find out, whenever they can get that procedure done. And that we should pause on the under 18 component of this because we don't know the long-term consequences this is going to have in every family, in every corner of our Commonwealth. And at the same time that we're doing that commission, we expand access to judicial bypass, we try and fix the problems that are in it, and then we reach consensus, as we do so often in this chamber, on an incredibly emotional, personal issue. Thank you for hearing me out on this issue. I understand the complexity and the emotion behind it, and I ask that when a vote be taken, it be taken on a call of the yeas and nays.